You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS.
Welcome to Convenience Matters. My name is John Eichberger with NACS and the Fuels Institute, and this is the program where we talk about everything that's happening in the convenience and fuel retailing world. About 160 million Americans, that's about half of the United States population, visits a convenience store every day, and about 42 million of them fill up with fuel. And I am joined by my co-host,
Donovan Woods, here from the Director of Operations at the Fuels Institute, and happy to be here and happy to speak to two special guests today.
So we are joined today on Convenience Matters by Glenn Kedzie and Mike Tunnell with the American Trucking Association. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Thank you for having us.
And so one of the reasons we asked you guys to join us is, convenience stores sell tons of gasoline and diesel fuel in the country. And when we start looking, especially through the Fuels Institute, at what's going on in the market, it's so easy to forget that more than a third of the fuel demand in this country is diesel, and about 95% of that come to the trucking industry. And you guys represent the trucking industry across the country. Glenn, can you kind of give us a little overview of the American Trucking Associations and who your members are and what you guys are looking at?
Oh, certainly. The American Trucking Associations has been around since the 30s, and we are the national trade association for the trucking industry. Our members are primarily fleets, but we also have various other members, including all the truck and engine manufacturers, trailer manufacturers, and also suppliers. We represent members from the largest of the large to the smallest of the small. We are one-stop shopping, as we like to say. We have our lobbying branch based in Washington, D.C. The headquarters office is based in Arlington, Virginia, and our research arm is based in Atlanta, Georgia. We have many aspects of ATA. We cover economic forecasting, we cover trends, we cover engineering, we cover tax issues, energy, environment. We have a litigation arm, and it's like I say, we're one-stop shopping. We also, under our overall umbrella, have our 50-state affiliate trucking association members. So while ATA covers the big picture items, namely the federal issues, our affiliate state members represent trucking's interests in each individual state. So that's ATA in a nutshell. And like I say, we are about 200 employees strong, and every day is different. And whether it's fuel and environment or tax issues, what's happening on Capitol Hill, what's happening in federal agencies. So it's a very great industry to work in.
So, we all see the trucks going down the road, and we see the bumper stickers saying, trucks make the country go and make the economy grow. How big is the industry? If you were to kind of try to describe the size and scope of the trucking industry, how do you do that?
The trucking industry hauled about 71% of all freight transported in the United States in 2016, and that's about 10.5 billion tons. As an industry, we're a $676 billion industry in 2015, and that represents about 80% of the nation's freight bill. Putting another way, on average, trucking collects about 80 cents for every dollar spent on freight transportation. There's about 34 million trucks of all classes that were registered for commercial use in 2015, and of the almost 34 million trucks, about 3.6 million were what we call the long-haul trucks, the trucks you see going up and down the nation's highways with trailers. And about 10.6 million tons of freight were hauled by trucks in 2016. And we also log a lot of miles. All registered trucks logged about a total of 450 billion miles in 2015. And according to our analysis, combination trucks, tractor trailers, drove about a total of 274 billion miles. So we're out there, we're moving, like we say, the nation's highways and byways. Those are a place of business. Those are office environments that we operate in.
That is very impressive, Mike. Now, Glenn, I like to break things down to make it a little bit easier for the average consumer to understand. When I'm in my car and I'm down the highway, and on my right there's a tractor trailer, and on my left there's another big truck, and I'm feeling nervous, besides being in that situation, why should consumers care about what you're hauling?
What they should care about is virtually everything that you received at some point in time was moved by a truck, whether it's the groceries on the shelves, your medicines, the lumber that's being used to construct your new house, the clothes on your back. Without trucking being part of this interconnected transportation network, you would not have those items to use. Your daily consumer goods all end up on a truck at some point in time.
So, and Mike, I was with you at one point when you gave a presentation, some of the research that the American Transportation Research Institute has done for ATA, where you guys have actually talked to drivers and some of the experiences they have and the challenges they face. Convenience stores, truck stops combined are where the truckers actually spend a lot of their time, and they have hours that they have certain rest periods to do that they have to abide by. From what you've learned from the drivers that you guys have interviewed and spoken with, what are some of the priority things they're looking for when they're trying to pick a spot to stop off when they're on the road at a convenience store or a truck stop? What are the primary features they're looking for, and what really makes them choose one location over another?
Yeah, we have surveyed drivers to find out what their parking preferences are, and parking is a huge issue, the lack thereof. So we're trying to do research that will help improve that situation. And drivers typically are looking for a safe location to pull over and spend time. They also indicated conveniences that are supplied, a place to eat, a restroom. So those type of amenities are really important to the drivers, and they're trying to find locations that provide that. Affordable prices and safety is a real focus, and like availability is the other part of it. It's if you ever drive by some of these truck stops, they're pretty full, so it's definitely a shortage of parking spaces. So
with that, a lot of that sounds a lot like what normal customers are looking for in a convenience store: is the safety, the access, the availability, the services. But the truck driver, the whole trucking industry has a very different role, a different approach. As Glenn pointed out, the size and magnitude and the importance of the economy as a whole. And we've gone through a recession about 10 years ago, come out of it, and 8 to 10 years, are we getting ready to go into another one? What has been the biggest changes that you guys have seen in the industry as the economy has grown over the last several years? And what have been the biggest advancements that you guys have seen kind of going forward to make the freight traffic a little more efficient and a little bit more conducive to economic growth? Mike, I don't know if you want to start off with anything you guys have done research on.
Yeah, I'll just mention that the topic of e-commerce is really popping up right now. The impacts, how that has really changed a lot of the dynamics of the freight market, and more deliveries being done to people's doorsteps than we used to see. So that's really one area that we're focusing on, trying to understand the impacts of that. And just quickly, I'll move into what we're looking for in the future is the autonomous vehicle topic. As with cars, trucks, they're looking at more and more automation, and what the role that plays going forward is an area that we're spending a lot of time looking at.
Now, Mike, you mentioned the autonomous vehicle, and that excites me because I love technology that's moving forward. And I was at a trade show in the summer, and it was focused on heavy-duty vehicles and that type of vehicle being the pathway for autonomous technology to actually trickle down to the consumer. Now, does that make your industry nervous, or is that something you are willing to adopt?
It's intriguing. I think the industry as a whole is trying to understand the role of it. If you look in the airline industry, the planes spend a large percentage of the time on autopilot. Would trucks operate in the future if those type of technologies become more readily available, and how does that impact just the different aspects of operations that we know today? So I think the industry is looking at it as the future. This is what the future holds, and how do we move in that direction in a safe, efficient manner.
Yeah, the comment of safety and then the whole issue of autonomous leads me back to the D.C. area, and Glenn, I'll direct this towards you, is obviously regulations have a huge impact on your industry from safety requirements but also from a fuel efficiency standpoint. I've heard some people talk about autonomous technology could enhance efficiency, but the industry also has some significant hurdles to overcome in regards to improved fuel economy as a whole. What type of pressures are you under? What type of changes have you guys seen in the market that are helping the industry actually reach compliance with these new standards?
Sure. We had our first ever fuel economy standards imposed on the trucking sector beginning with model year 2014 equipment. We call that phase 1. And that was going to strive for a 23% efficiency improvement overall compared to 2010 equipment. Most of those technologies were technologies that have been shelf-ready for quite some time. Improvements in tire treads and compositions, more aerodynamic equipment, use of lighter weight equipment, etc. So we didn't really have a whole lot of issues with phase 1. Phase 2, which is going to pick up where phase 1 left off, is going to strive for an additional 25% fuel efficiency improvement beyond where phase 1 left off. The big change now is that phase 2 is going to be looking at regulating trailers as well, considering trailers as part of the overall vehicle. So whereas, phase 1 addressed the engine efficiency improvements and the truck efficiency improvements, phase 2 is going to look at separate requirements for the engine, for the truck, and also for the trailer. Now, I'll put a footnote there because on the trailer aspect, that is currently under legal challenge by the industry folks in the trailer sector, saying that trailers should not be regulated because technically they should not be considered part of a vehicle. Lots of the improvements you see on trailers, the industry has already adopted. If you go down the highway, you'll see those side skirts on a lot of those long box trailers. You'll see what we call trailer wings on the end of the trailer that are open up that help create more fuel efficient air movement around that trailer. You really can't see if there's improvements on the tires, but believe me, the use of fuel efficient tires are becoming more deeply acceptable in our industry. Where some of our concerns are with where we're heading is if the federal government decides not to go forward on the schedule that they're planning on doing under phase 2, California is standing ready to kind of step into any space that might be vacated by the federal government in terms of improving fuel efficiency on trailers. And so California is a big player, 6th largest economy in the world. So they would, in fact, be creating what we call de facto national standard. Our industry likes one uniform standard. Trucks are mobile by nature. We cross borders. We cross state lines, international lines. And we need certainty that wherever we have that truck, it's going to be in compliance. In terms of technology and the difficulty it might impose on our industry, it doesn't really scare us. This is probably one of the first regulations ever that has the potential to give us a positive return on investment. Most other regulations associated with emission reductions involve the trucking sector paying more for their equipment and just writing checks. But there's actually a business case to be made to become more fuel efficient, especially when you can break even and become more profitable within your period of ownership of the equipment. The engine improvements to hit the efficiency numbers under phase 2 in the latter years, those might be very difficult to achieve at a very high cost as well. So we're kind of taking a wait and see view of where we're heading because this is also the longest implementation period of any regulation ever imposed in our industry. It's going to start in 2018 and go all the way through 2027. So almost a 10-year phase-in with various targets on the engine, on the vehicle, and trailer. Very complex rulemaking, probably the longest rulemaking ever put out by EPA as well. EPA and NHTSA, I should say, was a joint rulemaking.
So in terms of the strategy to achieve fuel economy, I mean, you mentioned a lot of the trailer stuff. Are we seeing any evaluation and investment in alternative fuels or alternative propulsion technologies? I mean, a couple years ago, we kept hearing about is the industry going to switch over to natural gas? There were some forecasts that actually the Fuels Institute had commissioned that included a suggestion that maybe by 2030, 30% of the industry might switch over to natural gas. Are you guys seeing any trends that would indicate a shift in technology in the industry?
Not in terms of fuel. When natural gas was peaking and the business case was there based upon the cost of diesel fuel, it was a very good business case to consider. But with the advent of fracking and the low diesel fuel prices now, natural gas has kind of fallen by the wayside for most industry sectors. Not every industry sector, but at least long-haul trucks. It's still on the shelf. If there's another major swing in the opposite direction where diesel fuel prices ever go back to $5 a gallon again, the business case is very attractive to go with natural gas vehicles. In terms of other technologies, like we do use a certain amount of biodiesel blended into diesel fuel in our industry for a couple of reasons. State renewable fuel mandates and the Federal Renewable Fuel Standard kind of warrant a certain amount of renewable fuels be blended into the normal stock of fuel in the country. So we use it for that reason. We use it for other reasons as well.
I have one of those
fuel
too.
Cells, in terms of fuel cells, everyone says, check back with me in 5 years. That's kind of where we always are. They haven't quite gotten over the hump with fuel cells. We think that technology is advancing faster than any time in the trucking industry's history on all measures across the board. I think fuel cells is no different, as well as battery technology. You're probably hearing about Tesla's unveiling in October or November of this year of an electric Class 8 truck. And so we're very curious to see where that's headed. We want to see what that unveiling is, how that works, what the range is of the vehicle, what the cost of the vehicle is, and other aspects. So if I had to rank them, diesel is still going to remain our primary fuel for the foreseeable future. Natural gas could have market entry if something happens in the way of diesel fuel pricing. And I think that battery technology is something to really pay attention to.
So, Mike, one of the principles of the Fuels Institute is that we don't advocate for any particular fuel. We're looking to see what's happening in the market. We study, we see what customers or consumers want. It seems to be that the trucking industry is the same way. You didn't really advocate saying, well, we prefer this type of fuel, or we would like to go this or not go that direction. It seems your only concern is being able to get from point A to point B in the most efficient manner. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the industry is really more looking at the business case, and there's traditionally has been a lot of investment in diesel and infrastructure and throughout, and it's probably the most cost-effective fuel. But it isn't like anybody is wedded to diesel. If a cost-effective alternative comes along, there's definitely a willingness to consider it. But as I said, infrastructure is a big piece of it, and the engines type, whether it requires a change to the type of engine, would be another factor. So there's a lot to consider. But yeah, fuel neutrality is really kind of the way the industry approaches it.
A lot of the information you guys shared with us in that discussion about efficiency ties in directly to a report we issued at the Fuels Institute early in 2017 called Tomorrow's Vehicles, which we had a section of that dedicated to medium and heavy-duty vehicles. And what we found was through 2025, we're still at 97, 98% of engines are going to be diesel, liquid-fueled, with some increase, modest increase in possible natural gas and some hybrid technology. But very modest. I think, what I've been telling people about alternative energy all along is as soon as it makes economic sense, then you'll see people adopting it. I think in the commercial side, when you have fleets and you're driving maybe a couple 100,000 miles or more a year, making the ROI on an investment in a new technology that can deliver better fuel economy is much easier to justify than trying to convince a consumer. I mean, so in some respects, while I agree with you guys, I don't see anything changing quickly. If there is an economical alternative, it's quite possible that the fleet industry will actually adopt it faster than regular consumers. Would you guys disagree with that?
No, I would just mention that what I find interesting is on the EPA, the second phase of fuel economy standards, they really did not project a lot of hybridization of the fleet. And, with a lot of the electric technology coming forward, there's the potential that if that was affordable and it happens quickly, there may be transition. But EPA in their regulatory outlook didn't see a lot of that happening. So I think, the perspective is it's not expecting a lot of that to occur, but things could change quickly too.
Well, Donovan, I appreciate you guys joining us today. I think it's critical that we continue looking at the entire breadth of transportation options out there and what's going on, and we will definitely follow up with you guys about what's going on in the trucking industry. Thank you guys very much for joining us on Convenience Matters.
You've been listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. For more information, go to nacsonline.com.